Okay, well, I am going to introduce you to Scott of Home Enhancement Company. He's the project manager and consultant, and he does all the design, staging, renovations, and specializes in helping get homes ready to sell or rent. So they are a full service staging company, have amazing eye for design, and really transform properties, as well as Maddie, who's the design assistant, and Patricia, who's the staging designer. And we also know Jim over at your company. So they've helped us with staging, getting places ready, and they're going to show you some amazing photos, let you know which investments are worth it, how to dress your property for success. So come on up here, Scott. Let's hear what you have to say. Welcome, Scott. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed your beginning presentation. Learned a lot about the market. I gotta say, I'm probably the optimist in the room. I feel good about spring, summer. My phone, like yours, has gotten crazy. Ask these two in the last couple of days, and that's usually, I mean, it happens this time every year when people are getting ready to list and getting ready to sell properties. We start ringing, the phone starts ringing. So we'll see. I hope for everybody's sake that it continues. Our company's Home Enhancement Company. I'm just going to get to the next slide so I can tell you what we do. Home Enhancement Company really started, Jim Meadows was a single man operation who was a designer and a general contractor, and he basically helped realtors get homes ready to sell by painting walls, doing light fixtures, and then bringing in staging furniture. And it coincidentally started working. And over the last 25 years, it's grown into a suite of services, and we really are tailored towards a lot of investors, especially if you're if you're interested in looking at kind of rundown properties and you want to get it fixed up to get higher rents, or if you're interested in flipping, or if we stage a lot of our rental properties as well, just to keep photos for years to come. So in the investment realm, we get homes ready to sell. If it's been worked over by some tenants and it needs to get freshened up, we'll do that. If you buy a triplex that all the units are rough, we can help get it ready for tenants and get those higher rents. And then if you're interested in flipping, well, backwards, we help people who are interested in flipping as well, because we can take the whole project and get it taken care of for you. Home staging, we're going to get into all this. The only other thing I didn't mention was, if you're interested in the Airbnb, VRBO situation, something that we do for people who really want to be passive in their investing is we'll do the whole thing. Paint it, buy all the things, towels, couches, TVs, set it all up so that it's ready to go for you. Take photos and you can just get it listed. So let's get into it. I already told you our story. Pre-sale updates. So there's no realtors in there. Are realtors here or all investors? All investors. Okay. So pre-sale updates often come for people who are getting ready to sell. Usually if a listing is not looking its best, we'll come in and advise how you can get the most bang for your buck. We always try to be conservative, whether it's just paint, lighting, flooring, the bare minimum to get the most money out of the house. We're going to get to some design trends later of our suggestions for what you should do if you're getting ready to sell or even rent. But all these pictures are from projects that we've done. And I mean, for example, this one, I mean, it really is just a fireplace and paint and staging that essentially completely changes house around. Oh, front door, don't forget that. So little changes can have a huge impact on buyers' perception. The hard thing about what we do in design and in staging, it really is perception. The perception of a home is worth money. And if little dings, dirt, things like that actually affect renters and buyers' opinion of the value of the home. So we're a big proponent of spending money up front. That's what investing is all about. So that you can get it all back at the closing table or when you're signing a contract.
Hey, we go back to that one.
Yeah, of course.
Did you installed a fireplace, or that fireplace is already there?
It was there, you just can't see it. It was there, we just put a stone facade on it. So yeah.
That's a big change, right?
Yeah.
A little thing really in the scheme of things. And actually I have a slide about that. It's all about getting them to fall in love the second they walk in the front door. Because we're a believer that a buyer or renter probably knows if they're gonna buy it from pictures, but it's all about the feeling when they open that door. They're gonna be like, yep, this is what I thought it was gonna be, or they won't. And so we strategically put our design up front to kind of sell it straight away. This is another example. I think the next slide says it. Our gold standard is flooring, paint, light fixtures. And this is an example of, it was an older woman's home. They're getting ready to sell it. You could just as easily be renting it. And all we did was paint the walls, put in new carpet, put in light fixtures, and then stage it. And you can see, gosh, I'm terrible at this. You can see what a difference that makes. And I wrote, knowing what doesn't need to be done is where the profit lies, because really, you do not need to do everything. That's where an eye for design really does come in handy. And we're happy to always come out for consultations and be like, this is what I would do. Because really, we didn't even touch that kitchen, but so many families, you got to consider the price point, the neighborhood, etc., would be perfectly happy moving in there. But I think in this case, they spent probably $8,000. And I mean, this was a year and a half ago, so it was one of those multiple offers well above asking, but it's just proof that a little money goes a long way. Yeah, there's my gold standard: lighting, flooring, paint, countertops. And this is another example. All we did was put in new kitchen cabinet doors, which you can have fabricated offsite. You don't need to do a whole new kitchen. Painted it, put some hardware. Those are Formica countertops, all very budget friendly. A new faucet, I'm sure that was from Amazon, it's $100. And all of a sudden, this one is actually crazy. One of our clients bought it. She wanted to live there and then freaked out and ended up asking us to flip it for her. And she ended up buying it for $300 and it sold just south of $500, and she put $30 into it. Again, this was during the mania, but still, that one was crazy. So lighting, flooring, paint, countertops. If you do countertops, you probably gotta do backsplash though. I didn't write that one.
And is the lighting easy on that one? No problems. Because
we did put can lights in that one. So I mean, that one was pretty easy. I mean, our team, we have guys for that. So it's pretty straightforward. I think they just stole it from there. No need, you can see they just put a blank cover over that. It's like you don't need to tie off drywall, as long as everything else feels really clean. Those little things, people don't notice it, they just fall in love, and that's really the goal. It's just that first impression. They stop looking at other little things. But if the first impression, even if the front door is dirty, they're automatically going to go, it's dirty in here, and they open the door and then they start looking, oh yeah, that baseboard has chip paint, who cares really? But if the overall impression is clean, they're going to start looking at all the other clean things that are happening in there. And that's just kind of the psychology of how buyers and renters are walking through homes. So I wrote first impressions that pop. This is what we were talking about. Right when you walk in the door, this essentially would have been a very boring home. The living room is just a box. There's only one window. And so little things like this are where we take small trend that's easy to do, inexpensive, and somebody will feel like it's a far more elevated home than it is. So we're always, and for example, you can see this light fixture straight when you walk in the door. Maybe I wouldn't have spent as much on a light fixture, but since it's the first thing that you see, they're gonna immediately this is it. And Woot's just doing this in rentals as well. So we're gonna get to the rental section in a bit.
What do you call the wall? What do we call those?
I don't even know what I call it a statement wall, for lack of a better word. Because it comes in all shapes and sizes. That's what was popular, and it's still a little bit popular in different patterns, but now it's probably wallpaper. Maybe you put one wall. We just did that. Somebody had an ADU in their home and we just remodeled it. And so in the bedroom, there was a tiny spot for the bed, but we just filled that alcove with wallpaper. So all of a sudden they're not noticing that it's kind of small. They're just noticing that they love it. So, and I told him to let me know what he ends up renting it for, because I'm very curious to compare what they started at to where they end up. So yeah, we just we just finished staging it. I wish I had the pictures. That would have been a good one. Oh well, next time. So reflect the home's character. These are little things. This is original. glass. It was an old dated gross home, but those little things, it's like, let's keep some character or let's give them something again to fall in love with right when they walk in the door. So look for opportunities to keep the character while you're updating. This, you could use this in a rental scenario. Lots of times there's huge costly changes. And it's hard for, if you're selling, unfortunately we're talking about selling right now, selling a home, for example, ripping out all this stone would have been a nightmare and it would have been very expensive. And it's like, how can we update this, what's considered dated home with as little money possible, but still make sure that it appeals to everybody. And so in this example, we wanted to work with this stone. So we brought in paint color that brought in some of the greigey tones of that stone and then updated the countertops white, which was honestly, it was nerve-wracking because there's not a ton of white happening, but bringing in, oh no, how did I do that? Oh, that in there? Oh, that got stuck in. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be there. Oh no, that was, dang, there's a good picture up with that. Oh, there it is. Okay, that got stuck in there somehow. So we brought in staging that complemented the white and cream tones. So to save money, staging can be something that can actually bring together those odd elements of a home. And by intentionally bringing in a color palette that works with them, it looks far more modern because that stone is not something that people are particularly interested in these days. For example, that's what it looked like when we first showed up at the house. So really that's just paint and staging. Oh, there's light. All right, investment renovations. So if you're interested, if you're finding properties that need work, or you're interested, you have existing rentals that you're curious about how you can update them to make more money on rents, that's something that we do pretty often. We're going to dig into each of these projects in a second. But when we approach an investment renovation situation, it's always about mass appeal, longevity. So we might avoid some of those trendier statement walls because in the end of the day, you don't want to remodel it again for 7 to 10 years. So we keep it super neutral. And then we also want to make sure that everything's durable. So this one was in the north end. It's actually taking me downtown, I think. Washington Street. Investor owned the whole house. Downstairs was a basement that wasn't used. In this example, we renovated the entire house. It was a big renovation, but they were renting the home to someone. Oh, it's basically like a squatter, really, because I don't know who lived in there. But for $600. And post renovation, we remodeled the basement down here. They wanted to make it an Airbnb. So we got the Airbnb set up for them. In the end, what ended up happening was a family wanted to rent the entire thing and the Airbnb down below. And we had just staged the upper level, just only kept furniture in the VRBO, but they wanted everything. So we actually ended up selling them the furniture package and they were able to rent the whole thing for $46.50 a month. So that was just one example of how selling the fantasy of a home can actually be really effective. This is a duplex on 5 Mile U-Stick. Investor bought it. They were renting sub $1,000. One was at $925 and one was like $1,050. Ended up spending a total of $30,000 on total, both sides. There's some landscaping included in that. Kept all the existing doors. All it is paint, LVP. Just a very light renovation in the scheme of things. Kitchen totally remodeled, but for mica countertop, full tile backsplash, and all new appliances. And both of those are renting. They were 2-bed, 1-bath, and they're both renting at $1,650, I think now. So, and then last but not least, this is a triplex. An investor bought all 3 units. They pretty much, actually, that was the best looking one of them all. We should use the worst picture. And they 3 units, again, super light. Update on all of these: paint, flooring, backsplash, light fixtures. One bathroom needed to be totally remodeled. The rest we did light tile. And I actually don't have the numbers on what he ended up at, but I think you get the point. Little suggestion, consider on rental properties, getting professional photos. We do stage, I mean, it's a staging company. We stage our rentals and we get them professionally photographed. And it's really nice because every time it becomes vacant, you have beautiful photos and you're not relying on what the state of where it was prior. Even if the apartment's not renovated, I think staging helps make it look more appealing, and I think you'll get more interest in your property. So I suggest professional photos. Flips for investors, if anybody's interested, we can help flip houses. It seems like you're mostly buy and hold people. But if anyone's interested in flipping, I think with the market changing, it's actually exciting for us because there's so much more tolerance for low offers these days. We've made quite a few. We've gotten one and we've been in the running for multiple. I think and when I say a low ball offer, I mean like a low offer. So if anybody's interested in that, I think the market is supportive of that right now. Staging. First impressions. I think pictures speak for themselves. This is what you see when you walk into a vacant home. This is what you see when you walk into a staged home. It completely changes the character of the home and makes it feel more livable, like somebody really wants to live there. We suggest it for listings, rentals, and flips. And my favorite is that potential buyers or renters spend an average of 40 minutes in a staged home versus 7 in a vacant home, which I think is really interesting because the key is making sure someone envisions themselves living there. And I think that speaks for itself. And it's really hard to quantify staged data of which staged homes are selling and unstaged homes aren't. All we can speak from is our experience of the numbers of times we've been called, and all we did was stage and it immediately sold when it hadn't sold in 30 days. And just our experience in staging homes and how quickly they come off the market compared to the rest. Occupied home staging, you guys are probably not going to have to deal with this much. We'd offer it to renters too if you want. I was just in one today where we're gonna have to it's gonna be a nightmare, but the tenant is there and we're gonna have to suggest how the tenant can clean up their things, pre-pack. And so what we do in a situation like that is give them a fun PowerPoint presentation of what to pack up, where to move their stuff, so they can essentially stage the home themselves. If they want, we'll bring in additional accessories, mirrors, etc., etc. But it's highly suggested if you're trying to sell an occupied home, especially if they're tenants. We do virtual staging too, cost effective and quick. VRBO, ready to rent packages. If anybody, it seems like that fad might be fading. That's what I'm reading. I think so many people bought VRBOs in the last 4 to like 6 months ago. It seems like the prices of VRBOs are going down per night, but it may be a good option. And in that case, we can always help get it filled out and styled for you.
My vacation or my short-term rental, furnished rental, was vacant over the holidays, like all of December and all of January for the first time.
Oh, really?
Since I've had it. And you know, and we had it a long time ago, like,
Yeah.
you know, when we started on Craigslist, you know.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, I think there has been some saturation. And then also we have case studies of what your difference in the numbers are. And you have so many more expenses with an Airbnb that if you're not going to do the work, and it's a lot of work to manage it yourself, you're not getting a ton of extra gravy.
Right.
And so that's something that I coach folks who are asking about that.
The other thing that a lot of our Airbnb investors have been shifting to, and this is partially, we've been doing a lot of furniture packages for this scenario, the midterm rental, traveling nurses, and doctors. And it seems like a lot more people are trying to shift that way because they're at least getting like a 3 to 6 month lease and they're getting at a much higher price because it's already furnished. So it seems like that's the direction people are moving. I've had, I don't know, 6 people recently trying to get the midterm thing going on. So it seems like there's a demand for that still. All right, design tips. So if you're going to do this stuff yourself, cool gray is out. We've had a lot of gray over the last, I don't know, 6 years, and people are tired of it. Things are starting to warm up. And I know maybe these don't look that different, but they are. It's becoming more of a grayish, beige, dare I say beige, is happening in the design world. So try to avoid in your flooring and your paints the cooler gray colors, and let's move to a warmer beige color. Flooring, same thing. Gray is out. Dark is just a nightmare because it shows everything. Don't do that. The trend is light and natural. So our suggestions, if you're putting in LVP or laminate flooring, that you're erring on the light side. That's what we're seeing people move towards. Kitchens. There's a lot of talk about white kitchens are over, stop. We tend to disagree. They're, at the end of the day, they are timeless. There's been white kitchens as long as we can remember. And then when you're spending money to renovate a property or a rental, it's always better to err safely, and you can accessorize how you want. We would suggest keeping kitchens white, keeping countertops light. The Silage tile is the new backsplash that can give it character. There's plenty of options for that, and then it looks less stark because there's some variation in the color. And if you really want to have fun, put a pop of color in the island or a wood island. Hardware. People struggle with this, so let's go through them. Brass is really popular right now. It's trendy. I don't think it's going to last very long. I would not suggest doing a house full of brass. What is popular is mixing your metals, and you can do brass and black together, and that tones it down a little bit and gives you some flexibility on your other finishes. Brushed nickel, tried, true, cost effective. It's always in style. And when it comes to matching your light fixtures and your poles and your faucets and everything, you're gonna have the most options. The problem is you start looking at brass and then you say, what color is the tub spout? What color is the faucet? What color is the mirror? And then you're like, oh, I love this one. Oh, it's $500. Brushed nickel is the safe. I'd say that's the investor-friendly metal. And polished chrome, this is elegant. This is high maintenance. This is expensive, but this is what people like. So I wouldn't suggest doing that one, but it's beautiful. Mixing wood tones, people keep asking about this. Avoid orange, red, or yellow undertones and try to play in the same palette. So something we'll always do, if you've got two wood tones, make sure there's some color of this tone in your cabinet. So you can see the veining in the wood is a dark color that plays with this one. So if you're gonna be putting a wood vanity in a bathroom that's running LVP, or you have existing kitchen cabinets and you wanna run new flooring in there, make sure that you're holding up your flooring sample to your cabinets to make sure that they can be friends. And that's my suggestion for that. Use trends sparingly. These are the examples of how we've used it in the past. These are what we're seeing, and people are wanting to see really fun, crazy countertops. Don't do that. That is an expensive thing. That's a trend. Loud tiles. The goal, remember, is always mass appeal, and you're leaving too much to potential buyers' personal tastes to be putting in expensive tile. So we, again, always keep it neutral. Everybody's always getting bored of light wall colors, gray, beige, but at the end of the day, we're always trying to keep spaces light and bright to make them feel as big as possible. So we would not suggest going for any darker toned colors. Any questions?
Nice job.
Thank you.
No questions. Oh, yeah, there's questions for sure.
I keep seeing 5 to 10 ROI.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, if you're enhancing it for sale
Mm-hmm.
and have a 5 times ROI, but if for rental, how do you?
How do I quantify that? That's a good question, actually. So yeah, in a house that you're selling, if the staging package is $1,500, right, we're hoping it adds $10,000 to the sale price, really. But in terms of a rental, I actually don't have a quantifier for that. I mean, I know in my own personal experience with the rentals that I've had. I've always staged them. I guess I have nothing to compare it to, but I'm always above market where people are very surprised at what I'm ending up getting. Like I rent a sunroom on the back of my house. Basically, it's a 1 bed, 1 bath for $1,800. And Patricia staged it, and honestly, it did everything. It has terracotta floors. Like it's honestly not the greatest looking space, but being able to kind of hide some of the less desirable parts of those, I really think you stand to make anywhere from $100 to $300 a month more on your rental by doing something like that.
So just divide that into your cost, figure out all that.
Yeah, I can't do math.
When
like
you had
that.
the one example where you said they sunk in 30,000 with the 2 units, and it sounds like the rents went up a total of 1,300.
So how long was the payback on that?
Yeah, I need to put those on.
Where's the calculator?
Sounds like
2
pretty
years.
long payback.
2 years.
1,300 a month, 30,000. Okay.
Mhm.
And my only other thought is it gives you
Mhm.
options down the road to sell. That's the only other thing that I think about with like spending that money up front is like if you need to all of a sudden pivot and get rid of it, it's far more marketable remodeled. So I always consider that as well.
Also increases their property price if you're getting more rent, right?
Mhm.
You're going to refinance and get the money out from somebody else.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
really good point, Dwayne, because
Yeah.
when we're running a cap rate, if we're gonna price a property, we're pricing it based on the rents. And so if, in fact, folks have done that, where they've inflated the rents artificially and given a month of rent free just to get that lease at a higher rate. So yeah, you may get a 2-year payback, but if your property goes through evaluation, it's gonna be worth a lot more because of that. And it'll be fresher, cleaner, attract better tenants, easier to
That's the
rent.
goal.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, that's a good point.
Mhm.
Well, and the rentals too, I feel like even when the rental market has been slow, or like a little bit slower, we've been able to get rid of them within a couple of days, like as far as getting them built and.
So maybe
it's like, yeah.
less time on the market.
And
Yeah,
vacancy is a big number killer. So yeah, anything that reduces vacancy. But I mean, the best thing to do, Tom, would be to stage one of your units and
That's a good
compare
idea.
it. Because you have same units, so you can do
You have
that.
to have a
That's
vacancy, a vacancy. Or you
At the
talk
same
about
time, I
occupancy,
guess,
but You gotta have a vacancy.
Mhm.
Stage it.
Right,
right.
yeah, absolutely.
That was a great presentation, Scott.
Oh, thank you.
Very informative.
Oh, thank you.
And, I have a specific question.
Sure.
I have a number of 2 bedroom, 2 bath. That are all kind of the same.
Okay,
And I have one that's coming open March 1st.
okay.
Which will be a vacancy.
Yeah.
I was thinking of, because it has some older pictures, I was thinking maybe, putting it out on the market a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking about letting them move out and staging it.
Yeah.
Because those pictures, and as you point out, in the future, for a whole bunch of.
On all of them, right, exactly, that'd be great.
So what, if I do that, what would you anticipate the cost would be of staging it and taking photos?
Where is it?
It's in Boise.
It's in Boise.
Yeah.
I mean, a 2 bed, 2 bath is probably gonna be $13.95 for staging. And then, I mean, my photographer charges probably $230, but she's really good. But there's probably other photographers who could do it for a little bit less.
What would the turnaround be for, let's say, move out on the 1st of March,
Mhm.
and then how long would it take to stage for a photograph and then make it available for rent?
Stage at the 2nd, photos at 3 on the 2nd, they'll be back on the 3rd or the 4th, and go from there.
So,
Yeah, okay. That's how we do it.
Talking days,
Yeah,
4 days. The whole thing.
yeah, we stage on most unless it's,
Paint, countertop.
oh, sorry, not, just staging. Just staging for him. Yeah, just staging for him. Same day, 3 o'clock, unless it's huge.
But let's ask the same question on stage.
Sure.
You'll make first of the month.
Yeah.
And then you do your thing, the paint, countertop, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
About how long does that take?
It would depend on the scope of that. I mean, if we're painting cabinets, countertops, backsplash. Are we painting all the walls? That's probably 2.5 weeks.
Is that for a two-bedroom house? One-bedroom?
For a 1 bedroom, it might be a little bit less, but once you lay countertops and then the backsplash is dependent on that, painting cabinets is gonna take 4 days.
And you must have one heck of a maintenance crew, property maintenance crew, to be able to come in on demand. Everybody wants the first of the month.
Well, it's not on demand. I'll tell you that. You gotta plan ahead.
They book out far, you wanna get on their schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, today I went to 2 houses for investors and they're thinking like 3-4 weeks ahead of time, basically, where they're like, this is gonna be ready for you on March 18th. So I want to get your numbers now. So the tenants were out at that time. I'll walk through, I'll get her all the numbers. And so she can decide like, okay, I'm gonna pull the trigger on this so that I can be on your books right when they move out and we can get it going. So there's a little lead time. Yes.
What about doors?
What kind of doors?
Those horrible brown flush doors.
Kitchen cabinet doors or just solid panel doors like this?
Kind of like that.
Kinda like that?
Not so nice.
Not as nice.
1970s, 80s doors. Yeah.
We paint them a lot.
You just paint 'em?
Sand them, prime them, paint them.
You do, no, paint?
Honestly, I mean, I'm sure there's a picture in here of what a painted door looks like. But yes, that's my suggestion is I would just paint them. They look perfectly fine when they're painted white.
Back three.
Back 3?
The-
Yeah, well, that's a 5-panel door,
So,
or a 6-panel
Yeah.
door. Sorry. Oh, right here, yeah. Well, that's old. It wasn't painted yet. We can kind of see it behind there. But yeah, painted white.
Prefer the leather door handles.
It's not worth your money.
Okay.
We keep our brass hardware on. We'll update everything and keep the handles, knobs, brass. Nobody cares. It's very weird, but unless they're non-functional. Yeah.
To draw the eye toward the future in a house. Like you have high, vaulted ceiling.
Mhm.
I can never figure out how to pull the eye toward the future. Color,
I feel like I need to see it. Do you have a picture? You can show me after and I can tell you what to do. Because it really depends. Unfortunately, it's super specific to every instance. I mean, if it's a huge room, you might actually have to try to make the room feel smaller in some way, because sometimes those can feel overwhelming. And so you might have to create spaces within that room, or break up a huge wall with some artificial paneling or of some sort. We've been trimming out these huge homes with kind of this like decorative trim work. So you might have to manufacture some interest.
okay.
And where's your light fixture? Cause I imagine a real statement piece of a light fixture would really draw the eyes up.
They're all can lights.
But you could swap out a can light and a vaulted ceiling.
Possibly.
That's a no.
It
I'm
totally
just saying.
depends.
Yeah,
And if it's that
definitely.
big of a room, it's gonna need to be a big light fixture, which means you're gonna need some support up there.
Yeah.
Rip it out of the ceiling. But there's all kinds of options. I'd love to, if you have any pictures, or I'll give you my cards, you can send me pictures. I'll call you and tell you what to do.
Other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay,
great.
well, thank you
Yeah, you're
so
welcome,
much.
of course.
Steph. Let's do a
What do you-
rehash. Shall we do a
Yeah.
recap, you guys? And did anyone online have any questions? Now's a good time. Okay. Avid investors, we have Scott with Home Enhancement Company here, who has just given us an amazing presentation on things to do and not to do when you're going to rent or sell your home to get the highest price for it with the least amount of effort or the best placed effort. And I heard you say, Scott, light and bright is really the number one overall.
Number
goal.
one, absolutely.
Clean. It needs to feel clean when they walk in, and nothing says clean like fresh paint. We often talk about getting your best bang for your buck out of paint and flooring. However, Scott's also going to be really looking at fixtures, countertops, backsplash, and the doors. Those are the areas he's going to focus his money. But he's not going to change out that brass hardware because it just takes so darn much time.
Yes, it does.
And right now it's still selling. He's not gonna do the fancier doorknobs and he'll leave those alone, but he's definitely going to stage it and get professional photos. And with the staging, the professional photos, and then when they walk in and they see all that, they're gonna spend 3 times more, 7 versus 20, 30 minutes in there.
Oh, yeah, 40 minutes instead of 7.
Okay, so that means they're a lot more engaged with the property. Cool grays are out.
Yes.
Mixed metals are fine. You can mix your metals. But don't go super duper duper trendy. Don't over trend it because you want to spend your money once. So maybe the gold's for your accents or for here or there, but stick with your tried and true brushed nickel for your metals.
Yeah.
And if you have to mix your wood tones, make sure that they play well in the sandbox and they have the same tones. How did you say?
Within each other, there's dark, if it's a darker floor, that same shade is in your lighter vein.
Okay, so pull the veins out, match your woods. Grayish is a big deal. That's our thing. Warming, everything's warming. White is always timeless. It's always been the #1 color that Sherwin-Williams has sold over the decades. So don't be afraid to use white and use your color with splashes and pops of color and staging.
Absolutely.
What else?
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, you did. Those are all your words. Oh, gosh. And I hate to say it, but he said wallpaper.
Hey.
How many people?
It's happening.
I mean, I've had to pull that stuff down.
But that's an example of something I would never put in your rental.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to sell a house, that could work.
Okay, well, wallpaper's back, you
Yeah,
guys.
it's happening.
Oh, Lord. Bring out that heat gun again.
Accent wall,
There you go.
Wall.
Accent wall, not whole room. Good point, for sure.
And not ducks. Nothing.
No.
Okay.
80s. Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Thank
Scott,
you.
Woman
Thank you.
Company. Thank you, AVID Investors.